Today is just a gym day for me. Y'all know I put my little headscarf on, whatever, during the gym. Hi, my name's Infamous Kiki. I hope everybody can hear me and see me and all kinds of. Uh, Let me try to turn off these ringtones. Cause the ringtones be a ringing when I'm trying to do uh videos. But so I hope everybody can hear me. Testing, testing. I can't test it out right now, so I apologize if y'all, hear anything else in the background. I apologize. Welcome, my name is Infamous Kiki. This is my channel. I don't be on here a lot. Please check out my videos. I do like a K-pop. I've been on like a K-pop tour. Not a tour, but like I watch a lot. Me and my sister-in-law, we go to a lot of K-pop concerts. So there's gonna be another concert in 2 weeks, and I filmed this concert. I did do reality shows, but as you guys know, I kind of stopped that because I was heckified busy. Make sure you come in here and thumbs up. I today, as those of us in America, I'm an American. I'm from America, born and raised in American parents. I am not. Let me. Yes, hi GSP. I hope you can hear me. Let me go out and say that I am not Muslim. I am not Israeli, Jewish. I am an atheist. Believe it or not, I am an atheist, y'all. Everybody knows my story. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, and some of y'all watch my videos and playlists. I've missed you guys too. You guys watch my playlist, know that I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and I'm a staunch atheist. So I'm not a believer in God. I just want to give my story because I believe my story is a very unique one. My story starts 20 years ago when I was in college. I had the dubious distinction of having a government teacher that what I forgot her name. God, I don't know if this lady's alive, but she was the best government teacher I have ever had at SMU, Southern Methodist University, SMU in Dallas. She was the best teacher I have ever had that taught government. This lady opened my mind to a lot of things. She was a Caucasian lady. She's a white lady. She's a white sister. And when I say sister, I mean sister because she was very liberal. I don't know. I think she was from Colorado. I don't know if she's born and raised in Texas or not. But anyway, I had a professor that would have guest speakers come in, and these guest speakers would come in and talk about different topics. Like she would have Native American guest speakers, and they would just give like a synopsis of the group or the organization, or just tell their story. There was a group that I cannot say the name of this group. Um, Sorry, y'all. I got like a bunch of things. Anyway, but okay. So I'm sorry, y'all. I'm gonna try to make this as brief as possible. I had a teacher, like I said, she brought in a guest speaker from a organization that I cannot say this organization's name because this organization is no longer around, and it is deemed as a no organization with the word that starts with the T because there's certain words I can't say on YouTube. So they brought in a speaker, and I had never been. Okay, let me give you some background. So before we go into the guest speaker, let me give you some background. Okay, because when you messing with a real one. When I tell y'all, when y'all messing with a real one, the first Gulf War broke out in 1989, and nobody in my generation, I was a teenager, I was a little kid, I was like 13 years old. Um, Nobody had really even seen war on the United States like I haven't in my generation. I was 13 years old. Gulf War broke out in 1989. I was riveted by war in the Gulf War. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what was going on. I had never heard of Kuwait or Iran, Iraq. I didn't know why we were going to war in 1989. But all I know, this is around the time that CNN basically became a channel based on the Gulf War of 1989. When they started having cameras where they would show the missiles and bombs going off and all that kind of stuff, I mean, people were riveted. Like CNN really came into their own with their war correspondence in 1989 with the first Gulf War. And I was by the TV riveted. I've always been a history person. I loved it, but I didn't know anything about the Gulf War, what was going on. So I went to the library. This is before the internet, before people got intellectually lazy, I believe. as a 13, 14-year-old black girl living in Plano, Texas, I went to the library and decided to read books on the Middle East. And why are we in the Middle East? And what does this have to do with oil? And da 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 da. I was so confused. But I went and read and read and read and read and read. So we fast forward to the um when I'm in college and I hear this man from Palestine talk about what had happened and the Gaza Strip and da 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 da. And God bless this man. I don't believe in God, but bless this man. I don't. He's probably long gone because this man was pretty old when I was in my 20s. So I don't know if he's alive or not. I think he lives in America. Yeah, he was. And so this group, which I can't say the name of, I'll get in trouble. Uh, Brought this man to talk, and me who don't ever cry, was riveted and was in tears. Like after this man spoke, I wanted to know more about the Palestinian people. I wanted to know what was happening, and so there was a group there. It was a Caucasian gentleman and a Palestinian woman, and they were like, if you'd like to know more about our group, you can give to our group, you can volunteer to work, and I was like, I want to know more about this group. This man's story touched me, about his family being pushed off their lands, about how he had lost his entire family, through violence. I was like, I got to know more. So I got a little pamphlet and I emailed this group, because this is back in the day when people emailed. So I emailed this group and I was like, I would like to know more. I know a little bit more about the Middle East than the average person at that time. So, by this time I was in my 20, early 20s. And like I said, I was in college. And so this group, they emailed me back like a week later and was like, would you like to come by our center? And our center wasn't that far from where I lived. And they were like, would you like to come back, come talk to us? You would like to. So I went and toured the center and talked to them and started to volunteer. I started volunteering for this organization. Again, I can't say the name of this organization because if some of y'all want to know, I can tell you on a personal tip, but this is an organization that I do not dare write or put their name out there because, again, I volunteer for this organization. This organization is no longer around, and there is documentaries about this organization in media. Um, you could, if I gave you the name, you could easily look it up. They're in Wikipedia and everything. But anyway, I won't go too much into that. I volunteered for this organization. As time went on, again, I got into the anti-war movement in the Middle East. First initial H. I'm just gonna leave it there. H. First initial H. Um, so I um got involved in this organization just volunteering. And I strongly believed in the cause of the Middle East people. Again, I wasn't religious in my 20s. I'm less religious now, but at least I was some sort of a believer. Like I didn't believe in Christianity or Islam. But I worked side by side with people who were trying to help out the Iraqi people because, again, after me reading up on the Middle East, I didn't need CNN to tell me or to form a narrative back then. Back then, those of us, I find it ironic now. Let me say this, that I watched the documentary a year ago where they had Tony Blair, George W. Bush. Yeah, I was about to call that man something else, but what we used to call him, George W. Bitch. George W. Bush, the one that was president for 8 freaking years. And after 9/11 happened, everybody had pretty much lost their mind. I feel like 9/11, I sat around in my country and out my jaw dropped because I could not believe the level of insanity that people. You would even say anything bad about it when they decided to invade Iraq and they're talking about Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. I stood up in class and I was like, bullshit. Bullshit. And motherfuckers looked at me like I was some fucking terrorist, y'all. You're anti-American. I live in America. I'm like, this is not right. I watched a documentary last year. I promise y'all not. Where motherfuckers was on there going, well, I guess the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq really didn't do anything. Saddam Hussein, oh, we didn't find any weapons of mass destruction. So you mean to tell me for years, those of us who fought the war, who was like, we love this country, but we don't, we're non-war people, and we were called everything in the book for to have the people 20 years later to turn around and say, well, I guess it was kind of like all bullshit. So anyway, let me go back. This organization I was working for, it became defunct. I heard that they were getting into legal trouble with the government. Like I said, I don't know what was going on with this foundation. I volunteered. I believed in the cause of the Iraq people. I did not believe in war. My friend invited me to go to Galveston, Texas, which is south of where I'm at. So I had to hop on a plane. Don't you know I went to an airport and they pulled me to the side. I was ready to go. I was ready because I was ready to go. I had bought my ticket months and months ahead of time. Don't you know I was on a plane and they put me to the side and they like, you can't get on this plane. I was like, well, I ain't got no alcohol. I don't carry a gun at that time. I was like, what is happening? Do you know that they was like, ma'am, that the feds pulled me over and they're like, oh, you on a no fly list? I'm on a what? You're on a no fly list. Homeland Security. Bitch, what? I was like, what? I was like, what? Why? I didn't do anything. Da, 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 da. They like, yeah, take it up with Homeland Security. I go to Homeland Security office in Dallas. They were like, you're on a no-fly list because of your affiliation with da, 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 organization and this organizer. Y'all put me on a no-fly list because of that? Because I was volunteering, working with the freedom of the Iraqi people because I don't believe in war. These motherfuckers put me on a no-fly list. So if anybody in on YouTube gonna tell you some shit about the Middle East, it would be your girl Kiki. I was put on a no-fly list because these motherfuckers put everybody who volunteered or even worked for this organization on a no-fly list. I was scared. I didn't say anything to my family. I was terrified. Um, I was absolutely terrified. Like I mean, there was some other stuff stories I can tell y'all. Some wonky things went on with my phone. Like sometimes I pick up my phone and this is when we had landlines, and I would hear like the real. Like it got to the point where I changed my number. It was so bad that I moved apartments. Like once my lease was up, I moved to another. I moved from a part of Dallas to somewhere else. Like I stopped talking to people. I didn't know. Look, I lived in fear for a while. Like I didn't, and it to the point where I didn't fly for the longest time. The last time I flew, like I flown, was years later when me and my husband went to San Antonio, and I was crossing my fingers and toes because I contacted Homeland Security System, and they're like, "Oh, we took you off the list," and I was like, "But I was on there for about 18 months, so I couldn't go to Galveston. I tried to, I had to sell off my ticket, and I never went to Galveston. I still have not been to Galveston. Talk about what wow, what a good story. Yeah, so I said if people want to know what people are talking about, it would be me. I I pose a question to people, and I can only put it this way. And I'm gonna leave it because I gotta go to the gym and I got things to do today. So I tell people in United States history, which most of us, because most people don't know the history of Palestine. Most people don't know about the history of the Middle East. And it's sad because now we live in an information age where you don't have to go to the library like I did at 13 and like I had to do even when I was in my 20s, even 20 something years ago when I was in college, we didn't have Google and YouTube. We didn't have not a documentary. I suggest if you want to know more about the region, there's a documentary called Palestine 1920, which talks about how this kind of like all started. There's other documentaries about how the British ruined the Middle East. I firmly blame the British for all of this, who pretty much did all this shit and then took off running. They was like, oh well, we messed everything up. Okay, bye. Because that's what Germany, Britain, and America and France is what they do. They go over in other countries, they mess up shit, and then they don't want to fix it, or they want to fix it years and years later. I have seriously problems with that. I have been anti-war before anti-war was a thing. So here we are again. My heart sank last Saturday. Like I sat there and cried because I didn't know. I felt all the people that I knew who were Palestinian. Like it makes me choked up. It makes me choked up because I knew good people from Palestine. I have been called, I've worked with the Anti Defamation League. I have been called anti Semite. And I've also been called anti Muslim. So I feel like I'm doing something right because I've worked on both sides of the aisle. I am an anti fascist. I do not believe in anti Semitism, Nazism. I do not believe in none of that. All the isms, I don't believe in none of that. I have fought 10 toes down with the Jewish people against fascism. Fascism here, that's being kicked up here and abroad. I'm 10 toes down with the Jewish people. There are a lot of people who are Jewish who have fought 10 toes down with black folks. No shade. I don't get into all these conspiracies about people saying awful things about Jewish people. I'm like, no, that's not my experience. Same thing with Middle Eastern people and Arabs, and I have not had that experience. I don't share their religion, I don't share their culture, I don't share their belief, but I share their humanity. I share their people. Like, why would you join an organization? Because I hate bullies. I don't believe that might makes right, and I believe in people's humanity at all costs. I believe that religion, I'm gonna say it again. I don't mean to offend none of y'all, but I believe religion is fucking us up so bad that all of this basically has an undercurrent of colonization, territory, history, but but the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about is religion that is killing us. The Christian Zionists, the Muslim jihadists, and the Jewish Zionists. I don't agree with none of that biblical prophecy or some kind of promise the Torah has for Jews. I don't believe in none of that shit. And I think it is wreaking havoc on our country here with the Christian Zionists and the Christian people here who believe that, I don't know, the rapture is going to come and Jesus is going to come unless 3 billion people have to die. Look, I'm going to tell people right now that if a billion people got to lose their lives in order for Jesus Christ to come back, I want no part of your God. I want no part of your God. I don't want to believe in no God that feels like people have to lose their lives in order for Jesus Christ to come back. That Israel has to be there and be destroyed, cause y'all believe that shit. I was a Jehovah's Witness. I know the belief in Armageddon and the end times and I know all of that. And I was like, wait, and I had a problem with it as a Jehovah's Witness, and I have a problem with it now. So I'm gonna testify up in here that religion is killing us. It is ruining us. And I would tell Muslims all the time, like, if y'all would just get over that, y'all would be cool. I understand it's cultural, it's deeper than that. But I'm like, that's part of it. But I'm like, does nobody really point out the obvious? Is that you have people who feel like they have a religious, God given right to a piece of land. Then you have other people who feel like they have a God given right to some holy land, We still on this? Jerusalem, Medina, Mecca. Come on now. Again, this is not somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. There are people on YouTube who have no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And I just be sitting there watching these videos going, have no idea. Have never talked to a Muslim, never talked to Israeli in their life, never worked with them. I'm telling you, your girl has. I have lots of life experience. And I understand Hamas. I look, I'll say no more on that one. I don't understand what they did. I don't condone what they did, but I understand that Hamas didn't just spring up over a weekend. They've been there since the 80s. That they were a political group that people actually dealt with for a while until they went feral. So I understand the history of the region, and history has no feelings. There's no narrative in history. I like facts over narrative, facts over feelings. I understand people get in their feelings because their families are over that. You have a right to. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't have family and friends in Israel or Gaza Strip. I did at one time, but not anymore. So I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm an American. And for you fucking Americans out there who are like, peace, why can't they just live in peace? We have the privilege of being peaceful here in other countries, in westernized countries. I can sit over here and get ready to go to the gym and sip on my latte and talk about these barbarians, all these people in the Middle East. I don't know. Bitch, you live in America. Sit down. Sit down. What wars have we seen here? What bombs have a bomb come drop on your family and see how you react? You will lose your mind. I will lose my mind over my children. If somebody would run up in my house and hurt my kids, and it's them or me, baby, it's going to be them. Because you're not hurting my children. People say, oh, I die for my children. Would you kill for your children? I would. They're my children. For my family, I would. That is the kind of passion that we don't understand here because we've never been at threat, really. We've never had bombs dropped on us. We've never had a war. I don't want to hear anybody talking about what people should, could have done. And I understand that the Geneva Conventions and the humanitarian laws, I believe that people should follow that all the way. But I am not going to sit here in America and preach peace when I have never had a bomb drop on my house. I've never had anyone take my land. Never had anyone kidnap my family and friends. I have never had someone come over and be like, hey, we're a political group and we're just taking over and you just do what I say. We have never experienced that here. I cannot sit here in American privilege and judge other people, what they would do or what they can do. And oh my God, I can say it's atrocious and I don't agree with it. But I can't sit here in America and I can't even wrap my mind around it. I couldn't wrap my mind around the Iraq war and I can't wrap my mind around it now. I've never lived in a war-torn region. I'm not a refugee. I'm not an immigrant. I cannot understand that. I can try, I can sympathize, I can empathize, but God damn it, we've never been there. We have no idea. What would you like somebody to come up in your house and be like, you and everybody got to get out? This our house now. You mean to tell me your reaction is going to be like, oh, okay. I mean, here we have free speech and free expression, and people have no idea how the Palestinians live. Do y'all understand that they can't go and just buy houses and roam free? Do y'all not understand what's happening? Do y'all understand what happened in South Africa with apartheid with the black people and the Afrikaners? How the European Afrikaners, they could have land and they had fenced off neighborhoods and they had segregated pools and they basically took segregation from the United States and just ramped it up. Y'all do understand that. Y'all do understand that in Israel, the Palestinians, they can't move freely. They can't go buy land. They have to get passes to go work with the Israelis. They to work in Israel. They can't just go wherever they want to go. They have no running water. They have no trash. They have no really facilities. Like, I don't think people understand what kind of conditions these people live in. So I understand that this situation in America with our ghettos, because I'm from the hood, and y'all think that's bad? Okay. Like, I just tell people to educate yourself as to what is going on, and don't let me or anybody else shape your narrative. Shape the narrative. Go find out yourself, and then you come to a conclusion, and you think about what you would do in that situation. Because I understand that there are peaceful people out there who fight for peace all the time. Like I said, I was an anti-war protester. I'm not that person now. I am not. Once I had kids, all bets was off. When I had children and I looked at my son and I'd be like, I would kill somebody for my child. If somebody messed with my child, I would burn their house down. I would fight till hell freeze over and then fight on the ice. When I had kids, that's what changed things for me. I was all like peace, peace, and love. It was easy for me to say that, to be in an idealistic 20. But once I had children, my whole world changed when I had kids for me. But that's me personally. So when I don't like war, I don't support war, but I understand it. But I understand it. Like, I understand that when you have children and you have families to protect, that you are willing to do any means necessary to protect it. And I'm not saying anything, I'm not saying this is for the Israelis or for the Palestinians, but I'm saying I understand. I get it. But I tell people, please go on the internet and watch documentaries, and you will get a better idea of, because like I said, Americans, we don't even know our history here, much less in the Middle East. But for somebody who's been in this Middle East thing since they're 20, that I teach my children, like, Muslim people are not to fear, because when that shit was popping off during the Iraq war and people were going around beating up Muslims and hurting Muslims, anybody that had a Muslim name, even black folks who have Muslim names. And I told people, you do understand that Muslims are not just Arab. You understand that are Christian Arabs. You understand that they're Arabs who are ethnically Arab, but they're not Muslims. There's Christians, there's atheists, there's billions of Muslims on the planet, and there's Chinese Arabs, there's Arabs. I'm sorry, Chinese Muslims. There's Muslims all over the world. There's Muslims in Russia. There's Chechen Russians. There's Chechen Muslims. Do you understand? Like, I didn't know this either. There are Muslims in every race, ethnicity, country all over the world. It's not just a bunch of Arabs. There are people beating up Indian people. Hindus and Muslims don't even get along. People had turbans on their head. They had to explain, I'm a Sikh. I'm not. I was like, there's a difference. I had to tell somebody, he's a Sikh. He's not a Muslim. They don't even get along with Muslims. He's an offshoot of the Hindi religion. He wears a turban on his head as a, like, I had to explain this to ignorant ass Americans. I don't want us to go back to the way it was before, because me living through that was horrific enough, but then my children are gonna have to go to school and they're gonna have to defend a Muslim and they're gonna have to whip somebody's ass. I'm just gonna tell you right now, because my kids are not having it. They don't fear. I have Nation of Islam in my family, so I'm used to Muslims in that regard. And then I have people who married Sunni and Shia Muslims. So I'm not gonna let anybody. I know people that married Jewish. My in-laws' family are Eastern European. So I'm like, it frustrates me. I get angry and I get frustrated because human beings are so tribal, are so, they want to divide, and people are denying the human nature of human beings, because human beings, it's natural for us not to get together. So my solution for Israel and Palestine is to have a blended society, but I don't think that'll ever happen. But I'm telling you right now, even if they get rid of Hamas, in 10, 15 years later, all those kids right now who are lost their families and are angry, they grow up to be more militant. We have seen this with Hezbollah. We've seen this with ISIS. Like, it just keeps going. I'm just like, do you understand? You're creating more terrorists. Like, you are creating them. They are little kids now. And I would tell people to watch Al Jazeera Live, which is where you know what's really going on in Palestine, because News in America, I stopped watching CNN, MS. I stopped watching Young Turks because it's a shit show. I'm just like, here we go. You want to know what's going on in the Gaza Strip? You want to see what's going on with Palestinian people? Go to Al Jazeera. There's another channel that's called CGTN, which is a Chinese, and then WION, WION. They all do live on YouTube. They're live news channels, and they do excellent. I watch them. I've been watching Al Jazeera. I tell people since I was 16 years old. Since the United States government was trying to deem Al Jazeera as some kind of terrorist mouthpiece, whatever news organization. Yes, yes, they are. I watch Al Jazeera all the time in WION, because they are legitimate, trying to get both sides of the equation to see what's going on in Gaza, because it is tragic. It is sad. It is sad. I understand that the Israelis need to trying to get the hostages back, trying to root out Hamas, but Hamas are going to use the people as shields, and I don't agree with that. But I I trip out on America, because I'm like, what do you think war is? What do you think war is? War is brutal. War is human shield. War is kidnapping people. War is beheading people. Like, this happens during war. War is not a fucking video game. This is not Call of Duty. This is not, let me say it for the people in the back. Amen. War is not a video game. It's not Call of Duty. It's not Rainbow Six. It's not PUBH. For some reason, people think that, war is some sort of video game where you just shoot at some people and drop bombs on them. War is not trench warfare that you see in Saving Private Ryan and World War II. For some reason, Americans just think that war is this pretty little thing where, women don't get deed up. Honey, when it comes to war, even in the Ukraine, women and kids get it first. Women and children, we are the worst victims of war. We are the worst victims of war. They may get rid of the men, but then the women and kids, they carry us off. They either kidnap us, kill us, essay us, or all three. That's what happens to women in war. That's not the rules. There are no rules in war. Yeah, when the situation ain't improving, I'm trying to murder everything moving. Just like the song "Hard Knock Life" said. What did that what Jay Z say? When my situation ain't improving, I'm trying to murder everything moving. Jay Z, y'all. Jay Z said that. And that's profound. Like there's no rules in war. There's just none. I mean, y'all try to pretend that it is. Oh well, we can't hit civilians. Oh, they're using them as shields. In rules, there's brutality on each side. There are things that the United States did in Iraq that was horrible. They bombed people's weddings, and oops, we accidentally hit the wrong caravan. That's happened. Everybody has blood on to sit here and be like, well, it's just Hamas, they fault. Everybody, there's blood on both hands, honey. Like so, before this happened, you know, these two factions have been fighting tit for tat back and forth since since 1917. To be honest with you, it's been going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But anything that happens to the Palestinians, it don't make the news. Nobody know. I'm like, do you know what happened in 2007 with the blockade? Do you know what happened in 2014 when they came in there? Do you know what happened in 2021? They went to the mosque and they threatened people and they shot people. Oh, you don't know about that? Oh, well, why? I wonder why. Because the media don't report about what happens to Muslims because they don't really care. That's not news. That's not in proximity. I'm a journalism student, so don't nobody try to don't you dare don't do it. I have a degree in journalism. I know about proximity, about how to word things because people only care about things that happen locally, statewide, and then nationally. I know all about that. I went to journalism school. I have a degree in journalism. So I understand that in America, here, and in a lot of places, not just here, it's taught in journalism school about proximity. So if you're a journalism student, you know what I'm talking about certain stories that you know are not going to sell, quote unquote, sell. Sex sells, proximity sells, scandal sells. I know about all the terms in journalism and what I know about all that. So I leave people with one question. I'm going to ask y'all. For those of us who are American and know American history, we understand that the history of our country is found on settler colonialism. The pilgrims came here, whatever reason that you want to believe why they came here. I'm not going to get into that. That's for another time, another day, because I love history. But I tell people um um when the settlers when the settlers came from um when the settlers came from England, France, Germany, other places, they settled here. And the Native Americans, they had something called Indian Wars. Look it up. If you don't know the United States history, all this is look it up. This is not my opinions. This is facts. So throughout the centuries, especially in the early 1622, they were Indian Wars, where the Indians came and they did massacres. Like they beat up the settlers, and they tried to oust the settlers to scare them enough to where they would leave. And I tell people, so when the Native Americans fought all these skirmishes against settlers, they attacked caravans. There's parts of the prairie land of Kansas. They talk about bloody Kansas and how all of this kind of started. That you come into the Native Americans being pushed off their lands and being put on reservations. Right. Because basically, a colonizer is a colonizer. This is the same template that has been used for centuries, hundreds of years apparently. So when the Native Americans were fighting back and they attacked settlers' farms, caravans, colonies, and they talk about them killing the settlers. So exactly what do y'all think that happened? What do y'all think the Native Americans were doing to these settlers when they talked about them trying to oust them from their land and massacring? Do you think that they just killed adults? Honey, look it up. 1622, there was one of many, 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 many attacks throughout 100 years where the Native American people attacked settlers, attacked their colonies. It got so bad to where only Jonestown was really left because they didn't want them there. So I said, when they attacked settlers and they scalped people, because that really was a thing, and they attacked settlers' homesteads and they took off with their cows and their goods, and the people who could escape the fleet, and they went in their homes and they were at night and they didn't have guns, they didn't have rockets. No, Native Americans had knives, machetes. Some of them had some guns. knives and shit. So I said when they went in there and while people were asleep and they attacked colonies at night and they basically eliminated people, were they just killing adults? Were they just killing adults? What do you think they were doing to the baby? Did they just let them survive? Did they kidnap them? Did they? No, no. So I ask people straight up. If you look at the history of this country, Native Americans have always attacked settlers. They've scalped them. Now there are instances where Native Americans did take children and raise these children as their own, and these children didn't even know they was white, y'all. There's instances of people who went to go look for their family and found them years later. It was like, oh, isn't we're looking for such and such daughter, and such daughter is tattooed up, looking like a native. Like they see who is this blonde haired, blue eyed girl of the tribe? Oh, we took her in. Now you kidnapped her and raised her as your own. This girl, these most times they were girls, but there were some boys too that had no idea that they weren't native. They were raised. Some of them they invited. Well, you need to come with us because you're European and we're your family. And a lot of them said, "No thanks. This is our family. This is where we belong." Some of these people had married and had children within the tribe, and they never go because the Native Americans kidnapped people. My ancestors, some of my ancestors are Native American. This is what happened. There was a lot more kidnappings than people really realized. They kidnapped a lot of kids. Some people didn't want to kill the children. They're like, well, yeah, we don't want to, we don't want to hurt the kids. We just kidnap them. Some of them did. So I said, when they went on these settler colonies and they kidnapped people and they would sometimes hold people for hostage. So my question is about this. What is my question, Kiki? So y'all tell me, were the Native Americans terrorists? I'll wait. So back then, with the Native Americans attacking settlers and eliminating them, their children, their old people, their young people, kidnapping. So my question is, were the Native Americans considered a terroristic group? That is my question for today, and I'm just gonna let y'all marinate that on ponder that. Because in all the history books I've read, and all the things I've read online and offline, no one's ever referred to the Native Americans as being as committing terroristic atrocities or terroristic acts or that they were terrorists. No one's ever referred to them in any history book I've ever read. But considering what happened and the things that they were doing to the settlers, and the settlers were terrified. I mean, settlers, like the Indian panic was a real thing. Like it was a reason why they should be afraid. It was a reason why they traveled in groups and they didn't settle. And they would warn people like, don't go to this certain spot because the Native Americans will raid your farm and they would literally D up your whole family. And they would tell people that they had certain territories that they were scared to go to. So my question is again, with what the Native Americans did to the settlers, were they terrorists? Are they? Were they? Would they be considered terrorists? I don't y'all tell me. Because again, history doesn't say that. So here we are today. And that echoes today. Narrative and language and thought is shaped by those who win history. And those who lose will get demonized and villainized. And those who win will get uplifted and made excuses for and propelled. Then as time goes on and politics change, things change, you go from the Native Americans, they were just trying to reclaim their lands back. hmm I don't know any Americans who would call Native Americans terrorists. I don't. But what they did was very awful. And so I tell people when you're reading history books and they're talking about, oh, they raided this camp. I love the language that they use in history books. I tell my kids this all the time. Oh, the Native American encroached upon settlers' land. I told my son, what does that mean? Well, I don't know, because that's not encroachment or they raided. That's not really telling you much. So what do they do during these raids? I tell my son, you have to dig deep. They raided this and they raided that and they encroached upon settlers' lands and they took back a certain they took back uh their territory. Excuse me. I said, son, what does take back mean? What do you think happened in this take? Did they just walk over there and be like, we taking it back? See ya. They encroached, and then the settlers came back and ran them off the land. Or I'm sorry, they defended their land. What do you think defended their land meant? So I tell people words matter. Context matters. So when y'all read all them history books, you got your children and they talk about the Native Americans, they had skirmishes with settlers. Tell your kids what does skirmish mean? Skirmish just seems like they just play fighting. Skirmish means they had guns and knives and tomahawks, and some people lost their lives. And people that lost their lives was men, women, children, pets. They burned down their homes, they burned down their crops, and the settlers did the same thing to the Native Americans. They didn't encroach upon their land, they killed these people. They didn't push them off the land. They fought tooth and nail and killed these people. So context matters, words matters. I love how they try to put let's sugarcoat our history and make it like, oh, like other people in other countries are violent and the Muslims are so violent, huh? Oh, the Israelis are so what? So our history of colonization is not the same thing. So the settlers didn't d up the Native Americans. So we all know that happened. Nobody's disputing that. But it's just the terms. I tell people it's the terms that are used in our history that that's not used in living history right now that make other people seem crazy or like this is something new. I can't believe people kidnap people. Are you for real? So in the Bible, when they talk about the Babylonians fighting with the Israelites, they just politely just was like, hey, we're gonna come to your gate and we're gonna politely take over your city, Babylon. Here in Nebuchadnezzar, we're gonna fight a war against you. I was like, what y'all think was happening in those biblical wars? What do you think was happening? The Bible tells some of it. I'm like, when they went to Babylon and they fought with the Nebuchadnezzar, and they was like, we taking our city back. Knock knock, Israelites taking our city back. What do y'all think that implies? It doesn't imply like we just gonna walk into your city and knock over some cups and be like, give me this shit, we gone. Like that's not what it had. This is what's been happening with human beings for centuries. If you deny the innate ability of us to be humans, whether that be good or be bad, then you're woefully inept. If you think that in America that you are not capable of brutality when somebody is hurting your family, then I don't know what to tell you. Some of you may not be not, but I promise you, I swear to God, I swear to God on everything, that if you had a situation where somebody is kidnapping your wife and kidnapping your children, please don't tell me what you would or would not do. Because we've never been in that position. I could think what I would do. I'd fight tooth and nail for mine. I'd fight tooth and nail for mine, for my family, for my children. If something would happen to me, if somebody would, some kind of political thing would, some kind of like war would pop off and my kids would survive, I promise you my kids will be seeking revenge because that is human nature. To deny human nature and everything is what I see today. We are not robots. We are not AI. We are emotional beings. As much as people try to pretend that we are not brutal, we are brutal species. We kill our own. We kill our own children. Like we are a brutal species. Like to sit there and say that you are clutching the pearls and shock, I've never shocked at humanity. We have lived through genocides over how many genocides we gotta have before you would think people would learn. They don't. Go look up Pol Pot. I lost faith in humanity when I was in 20s learning about Pol Pot and what happened in Vietnam. I lost faith in all humanity. The things that people were doing to infants in a tree, that's obviously gonna leave it right there. So if you really want to know about human beings, go study war, about the brutality of war. And I think most people don't. It's not taught. It's not really taught in school. They try to glaze over. World War II happened. Well, you understand that people people sat in trench warfare and shot, yeah, but then there were other things going on in France where German soldiers were going through the French countryside and wreaking havoc. Y'all do understand that happened. People don't know the history. We are a brutal species. We're not a nice species. Like I said, don't please don't be sitting up here clutching the fucking pearls on me. I don't clutch the pearls no more. I've never been in a war torn society, but I don't clutch the pearls when it comes to humanity. People like, oh, well, they took kids and they killed. Oh, yep, yep, yep. People like, how can you be so calm? Because that's what human beings do throughout history. You read about the history of Genghis Khan. I don't care what race. I don't care what Genghis Khan, who kidnapped women and children and put them in a harem. Imagine that, 5-year-olds in a harem. You a 5-year-old bride. You shudder at the thought of what happened to them people, honey. You gonna be shuddering. You learn world history, you gonna be shuddering a lot. It's a lot. World history, it's a lot, y'all. It is a lot. So I tell Americans in westernized countries, I need you to pull your head firmly out of your ass and learn about the brutality of what has been going on through this world since the dawn of time. It's not us versus them. You got people here going to malls and shooting people and going to schools and killing people. And y'all shocked? Well, they kidnap children. What are you talking about? Uvalde? You got one person that went to a school and that y'all ain't doing nothing about. So now we got to clutch the pearls about. They kidnap old people and honey, we there's mass shooters here. We can't feign moral superiority. That's the shit I hate about the West. We want to feign moral superiority and like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. These people in the Middle East, they so violent. We not. Have you seen the inner city? Yes, at the Texas State Fair. Where I'm at. There was a shooting at the fair. Like I was gonna take my kids to the fair. I'm not taking my kids to the fair because in the state fair they allow people to bring guns to the fair. Why the hell would you allow people to bring guns, being weapons to the state fair, Texas? Not going. Not. I was like, oh, we can go to the fair. No, I'm good. I don't need nobody up there. You know, no. And yes, and people are desensitized to it all. And then when it happens somewhere else, people either tune out or they clutch the pearls or they be like, the narrative, oh, they're beasts or they're animals. Okay, so we dehumanizing people now. Okay, because the dehumanization is in us all. We are capable of horrific things. Horrific things. Ask the history of Europe. How they felt about the Jews. Ask them how they felt about them, how the anti-Semitism run rampant then and now. So all these people would take the Israeli side. Some of these people, they just be like, good, keep them over there. That's really what it is. Some of these people are anti-Semitic. And they like, well, we don't want the Jews here. We want them, we just keep them over there. That's that. Nobody wants to talk about that either. Will anybody talk about that? The level of anti-Semitism and fascism in Eastern Europe, about how basically in the 1940s they didn't want the Jews in Britain. They didn't want them in America. They made laws saying that only so many could, these poor people who suffered at the hands of the crazy ass Nazis, that they made laws in America. Look it up. I'm not making this up. They made laws in Britain and America and other countries where they limited the immigration of Jewish people, was basically forced them to have their own state. I mean, yes, it was a dream of many people, but you pretty much left them with no place to go. That people were literally on boats coming to Ellis Island and they turned them people around because they were like, no, we ain't taking no more y'all. Nobody wants to talk about that. How these governments was full of anti-Semites who like, and they actually wrote Winston Churchill about the Jewish problem. Come on now, y'all. If these are, like I said, I'm not making this. This is stuff that's history that's written by the people who lived it. The way they talked about the Jews in World War I and World War II is like they were vermin. It had been going on for forever. The Spanish Inquisition wasn't just about, you know, Protestants and Catholics and heretics. They got rid of Jews and ran them off their homes, their properties during the Spanish Inquisition in the 1700s, 1800s. Like they were subject to pogroms and they were subject to mass, just wiping out whole villages of Jewish people. because Europe is full of anti-Semitism, like it is now. And people try to be like, well, okay, because they didn't want them here. America, what's wrong with America? They could have came here. Wyoming, you got a whole damn state of Wyoming. They could have came to Wyoming. They could have kicked it. We could have had a whole Israeli state in Wyoming. I don't have no problem with that. Like none of that. They were going to put them in Argentina, Uganda, Ghana. There was a short list of different places where they were going to put the Jewish people, and they have a right to have a homeland. I think as Black people, we have a right to have a homeland, but I don't want to push nobody off their land to get it like they did in Liberia. I'm an anti-colonizer all around. I don't care if it's Black folks, brown folks, Asian folks. I don't agree with Japan going in trying to D up Korea and take over they. I don't believe in that in no way. I am a through line. I am not a hypocrite. I am many things, but I am not a hypocrite. I don't agree with the Black Americans going to Liberia and subjugating and colonizing them and being like, hey, we taking over and y'all just gonna be, we're gonna set up our own government. Y'all gonna be beneath us. Yes, Liberia. Yes, Liberia. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the Japanese going to Korea and being like, hey, we're here to improve your lives, but then we're gonna subjugate you at the same time. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with China and Japan going, hey, we're going to China and Japan, we just gonna, we gonna D all up real quick. I don't agree with China trying to take over Taiwan. Let Taiwan be their own thing. Let people be their own thing. I do not believe in colonization in any way, shape, or form. I do not believe in fascism in any way, shape, and form. I am not into totalitarian government and totalitarian states. In communism, like all that. I believe that people should be left to live in peace and in harmony with the land, and they should be wherever they be. I guess people would call me a socialist anarchist. I guess. People say, "Oh, you're a socialist anarchist," whatever label you want to put it on. I'm not a communist. I don't believe in communism. I believe done right, communism can work, but it'll never do right because human beings can never do right. I have no faith in humanity. I have no faith in peace. I have no faith in hand. Do I think that there's going to be peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis? No. I think they will never know peace, both of these groups, as long as they decide to stay there and live in a two-state solution. I don't think a two-state solution is going to work. I don't. I won't get into it. There's many reasons. I don't. I think the only thing that can work there is a blended society. But both sides are afraid of that. Both sides, their elements don't want that. They want a separate state, but then they're always going to be enemies. They have to do what South Africa did. That's the best I can tell y'all. South Africa was like, look, okay, y'all Afrikaners, y'all can stay here, or y'all can go back where y'all came from. We're gonna have to take some of y'all land and y'all houses, but we'll pay you reparations for it. I believe the Palestinian people are owed reparations. They were pushed off their lands without the British government wanting to pay for shit. I don't blame the Israelis for that. I blame the British government. They was like, well, we ain't gonna pay y'all. We paying for the we paying to form Israel. We're not paying to form Palestine. And they weren't. And guess what they did? Okay, y'all got to go. Okay, we pull out. British like, we gone deuces. They don't want to pay the Palestinian people for their land. The British was like, okay, we done with this. Y'all on your own. I blame the British for this more than anything. And I think that it's up to the British to fix it. Or the UN or however. The British just kind of bowed out and was like, and then nobody wants to go back in history and really point the finger and be like, wait a minute, why are the Americans sending $3 billion to Israel? Shouldn't you British fuckers be sending money? Since Winston Churchill and all these people in England started all this, the Balfour Mandate. Yeah, look it up. Balfour mandate. The British started all this. And then after a couple of years, they was just kind of like, eh. By 1949, they was like, we're on. Yeah, y'all got it, y'all good, you good. Okay. And there was not enough money to compensate the Palestinian people. So I believe that they're owed reparations. Like I said, the same things that happened in South Africa, except South Africa went a different way of going about it. And I keep telling people that culturally speaking, knowing the Arabs that I know and knowing the Muslims that I know, I'm like, Arabs and Africans are two different things. Y'all want Arabs to act like Africans, to just roll over. Hello, fabulous me, stopping by to say hi, hello. And y'all expect, and I tell people that from what I know about Arabs, Arabs are not Africans. Arabs are not Native Americans. They just not. They're culturally nowhere near as docile. I hate to say this about my own people, but Africans, Africans will fight amongst themselves. Every culture can fight amongst themselves, but from what I know about Muslims and Arabs, they'll fight amongst themselves. But the moment somebody show up and they not part of their group, they'll form up like Voltron and fight to hell and high water to get foreigners out of their country. They don't do that. Some cultures are more cooperative. They'll fight, but then they feel like they won't take it. But Muslims, their culture is not of colonization. They don't take. I said people have tried the history of the Middle East and how the Europeans tried it. They tried. They'd be like, we should enslave the Muslims. They came back and it was like, no, we can't enslave them. They too violent. They too militant. They don't make good slaves. Yeah, they tried it with the Arabs. They went to Africa because Africa, the people were like, well, I guess they're some of the tribes and the people culturally were much more, you know, willing. I like I said, I'm trying not to sound bad because I'm not trying to paint the whole continent that way, but African people and tribal people, not the Africans of today, but back then, were much more unaware of like what was really finna happen and what was really finna go on when they sold some of their people. And then, I'm not saying that there weren't Africans that came or did fight back. They did fight back, but for the most part, um, just like Asia, they tried it. They tried to go to Asia, and they tried to. The Portuguese and the Dutch tried to establish trade, and then they tried to come over and take over. And then the Asians made laws and was like, "You can't come here to Japan with all that. Don't come here with that." Don't. The Japanese was like, "Out, get out." They kicked the Portuguese and the Dutch out when they tried to do a little bit too much, and they had the right idea. Like that's the reason why Japan and Korea and China hasn't been colonized by the Europe because they kicked them out their country and they were like, we have enough army and we have enough people to kick you out of our country and if you come try it. The Japanese was like fuck around and find out today. And I admired them for that because they was like, we have our own culture and we don't want yours. Even down to this day, I mean, Japan, like we're good relations with them, but they have a history of like we're insular, we're on our little island, leave us alone. But Africa wasn't like that. Africa was used to having trade with Italy and Europe, especially North Africa. They had trade with different countries for years, especially when you get into that area, that Mediterranean area was a lot of water and and then the coast were trading. So they were used to that and they found benefit in that. But there are countries who, like when you're talking about the history of the Assyrians and the Iranians, I'm getting off on a historical tangent. Those people were like, don't come over here with that madness. And Europe hates that. That they are like, keep that over there. We don't want your culture. We don't want to deal with you. We want our own culture and we don't want to deal with you. And other countries who are powerful, who want goods and resources, don't like that. That colonizer spirit. They're like, we're gonna come here, we're gonna set up our own. They're like, no, don't come. Like other countries, like, don't come here. And at least it's like, don't come here and try to set up nothing. Like we don't want you here. But then they have oil. They're sitting on oil. They're sitting on resources, and so they run roughshod over the Africans and run roughshod over them. The Africans weren't as organized. They weren't as prepared. They didn't have standing armies. A lot of these tribes, they had no army. They didn't have the weapons to hold off the colonizer, nothing like that. And so they thought, well, in Africa, we just do whatever we want to do. We didn't took slaves. We didn't did this. We didn't did that. They just thought, well, we'll just go to the Middle East and the Ottoman Empire fell. We just go do the same thing. But I'm telling you, them former Ottoman Empire people, them Middle Eastern people, they are not the ones. They are not the ones to have outsiders come over here and try to do anything. And whether you love it or hate it, that it is what it is. Like they are not one to bend to being like, okay, now we got to bend and do whatever you said. No, we want our own. And Russia was like that for a long time, and that's why the United States, one of the reasons why the United States, amongst many, didn't like Russia. I don't like Russia. Russia just they want to be United States 2.0. So I don't agree with Russia going and invading Ukraine. That's just stupidity. I don't like Putin either. But a broken clock is right twice a day. But Putin says yes, they need a broker a deal. So I guess they're going to go for a two-state solution. But again, I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't agree with a two-state solution. I believe it should be like South Africa, like where you're just gonna have Afrikaners, you have Africans, Afrikaners, people living together, and that it is what it is, in South Africa, you have a blended society of of people living together, and it is what it is, and so everybody didn't get everything they want. The Africans didn't. They let their political prisoners out of jail. Some of the Afrikaners, they still live in South Africa, and they have a commission on reconciliation where they talk about what happened. If you guys are fans of Trevor Noah, he talks a lot about how South Africa has come along since apartheid ended. How they don't have sectarian violence and people still, because they learn to talk about it. They be like, okay, the Afrikaners, y'all came here, y'all beat us up, y'all did the Africans dirty. Like nobody is taught in their schools what happened with their history, and everybody is just told to get over it. Everybody's just told, you know what, get over it. Just get over it. Like, okay, this happened, that happened, this happened, that happened, and they acknowledge it and move on. So to me, South Africa is the model for Palestine and Israel. But I don't think, and somehow we got Elon Musk. Don't get me started on that demon. Anyway, I don't like Elon Musk. I just, yeah, somehow we got Elon Musk out of sight. Yeah, he's not even American. I say you do realize that this man is South African with his ways of knowing that is very Afrikaner. Like the way he deals and does things, it is nothing to do with American. It's very much Afrikaner. I know people who lived in South Africa. I know a few Afrikaners that are in South Africa, and they'll tell you that the way he acts, they're like that's a typical spoiled elite Afrikaner. They because and Elon Musk is there for sure a South African. Like the way he acts, the way he mindset, the way he was. You can tell by the way he was raised. He was raised as an Afrikaner, colonizer, not American. I'm not taking over Elon Musk. He's not American. He's not. I don't know why we trying to be like, ooh, like there are people who don't even know that. I'm like, you do realize that he's South African. Like he's not. He wasn't raised knowing anything about our history of America or anything like that. He's not American. Like he doesn't have our culture. He doesn't have nothing. He's an Afrikaner. He's a South African. He was raised by colonizers. Yeah, like I said, I'm against colonizing in all forms. Like I said, I'm against them people going to Eastern Europe trying to run the checks off their land. My late husband, his family, they came to America because they were being run off of their land. So they came here to America for a better opportunity because their farms were taken and they were run out of the Czech Republic. People think he's from Texas. No, don't do Texas like that. Elon Musk, y'all, is not from Texas. He is a foreigner. He's an Afrikaner. He is from South Africa, raised by South African parents who have South African, old school South African thoughts about black people and how to do business. And it's a whole different culture over there than it is over here. Like don't give him us to Texas. We don't want. I don't want. I'm not a Texan. I'm from Michigan, so maybe so. I don't know Texas. I don't even like living here. Okay, y'all. To be honest with you, I don't even like living here. But yeah, that's my story for today. Like in a recap, I was telling the story. Yeah, I want to go back to the beginning of how I ended up on a no-fly list. How I worked for a foundation in my 20s, which was about Middle East peace and helping out the Iraq and the Palestinian people. How I understand the Middle East probably more than most people, especially in Texas. Nobody knows shit here. But most people on the internet are saying things and talking about things they have no idea. I've lived it. I've been on no-fly list. I've dealt with Homeland Security. I went to go get a gun permit. It took me 3 months to get my gun permit. While they told me, oh, it's held up. And yeah, I'll just leave. I'll leave that there because it took me 3 months. Well, normally it takes people like 4 weeks to get a gun permit. It took me 3 months because it was held up in Austin, which is our capital, where they do it. Somehow it was mysteriously. And then I called and I was like, why is it held up? And they're like, we got to get a supervisor to call you back. And nobody ever called me back. And then miraculously, a week and a half later, I got my gun permit. So that's another little story, a little tidbit to the tale. That's the PS, the post PS. This I'm sorry, not the PS. The epilogue to the tale is a couple years ago, I got a gun permit, and it took me 3 months to get a gun permit because it was held up. It was held up somewhere. It was held up in Austin. So if anybody know about anything, like I said, it would be me, and I'll do more videos. But like I said, I work for a Middle Eastern group. I work for the ADL, the Anti Defamation League. I've worked with them in Dallas. Like I said, I've been called the anti-Semite. I've been called uh, anti-Muslim. I'm like, wow, okay. And I feel like if I'm pissing off all sides, mission accomplished. I mean, I feel like I've done my job if I'm making people angry on both sides. But I believe in humanity. People like pick a side. I don't pick a side. I don't want Israelis people to get hurt. And they in turn are over there questioning their government and getting angry and like, how did this happen? How did the government let this happen? Why is this happening? Why are they going to war? I tell people, you need to watch more news. The Israeli people do not want to go to war, y'all. Most of them do not. So Bibi Netanyahu can get his bitch ass up there and say whatever he want to say, and then the military and IDF can say, but the people, no one's asking the people what they want. And a lot of people, especially the younger ones, do not want. They're like, we don't want to go to war. They're still dropping bombs from Gaza over into Israel. These people are terrified. They're like, we got to go to war because why? Because governments are deciding these things. Governments are on TV shaping the narrative. When people see people's presidents, when people see Joe Biden up there with his bitch ass saying this and saying that, and this is coming from someone who's a liberal. Okay, I'm a liberal, not a Democrat. I clear people up all day. I'm a liberal. I believe in liberal causes. I'm a liberal. I believe in humanity. I don't believe in political parties. I go whatever political party aligns with my ideals first. But when Joe Biden stands up there and like, oh, well, da da da, I tell people Joe Biden is speaking for Congress and for the interests of the United States of America. There are people here who are rallying in every city who are supporting the Palestinian people. There are people rallying in every city that are supporting Israel as a people, but not as a nation. They do not support Netanyahu, who had enemies, had people who did not agree with his right wing hardline bullshit. So I tell people, do not get it twisted. The Israeli people are over there protesting. The Israeli people are throwing bottles at people's cars, showing up at people's lawns. Politicians, they are encroaching them when they're out to dinner because they like, how did this security failure happen? And we don't want it. We don't want another war, and we're scared. And what are you going to do? And people are saying the military are not giving them any answers about the hostages. You're dropping bombs, but the hostages is there. They don't give a damn about them hostages. They like, oh well, collateral damage, yeah. I mean, they're like, we'll try to get them out, but realistically speaking, they know they're not going to be able unless they had negotiate. If you go over there and drop bombs, you're not going to get those hostages out, and the poor hostages are going to be fodder. The poor Palestinian people are fodder for governments run by mostly men and governments run by people who have greed and political aspirations and interests in the Middle East and in that region. United States are sent carriers and sent that, and people are like, well, why should I care, honey? When if a war pop off in the Middle East, they send in the military. That's our sons, daughters, brothers, uncles, sisters, whoever. Just like when the stuff was popping off with Kuwait, and people are like, why should I care? Because they're gonna send our troops, our babies off to the slaughter. I know people who served in Afghanistan that never been the same after that. That be in a forever war there. They've been in Afghanistan over 20 years, back and forth, back and forth. Like, I'm like, our billions of dollars are going to Israel. Our billions of dollars are going to fund this military machine. We can't even get health care here, y'all. I can't, I got to go. Don't even get me started. I'm like, we can't even get Head Start. We can't get no fucking health care. We can't get nothing. But the Ukraine and the Israelis they get billions of dollars that Congress signed off, Democrat and Republican. But you can't even get together to sign an infrastructure bill. We can't even stop big oil. But we got $4 billion okay. Let me stop. I gotta go home, y'all. They ain't got me riled up in here. They don't want to give money to to poor people because, well, it's creating a welfare state and all that bullshit the Republicans talk about. But we hadn't created welfare states around the world who need our aid. We don't send aid to 20 different countries because, and we're not sending aid out of the kindness of our hearts. We don't support Israel because it's the right thing to do. Bitch, please. We support Israel because they give us a chokehold in the Middle East to keep Iran and Lebanon and Syria off our asses. That's really what it is. It's about power. It's about resources. It's about security. It has little to do with the people that live in these regions. So I tell people all the time, like, like we don't learn about geopolitics in our schools or anything. Free lunch for kids in school, right? They'll take that away from us. We can't get no free college here. Other countries have it. Other countries have free college. We don't have that here. Other countries have free healthcare, national healthcare service. I'm not saying it's the best in the world. They have issues. We can't get that here. We can't even get our infrastructure rebuilt. We can't even get proper housing here. There is no push for affordable housing here. You got people living in apartments with their parents because I know in Texas, you can't find affordable housing. You got people here working 2 and 3 jobs, paying $2,000 a month for a 1-2 bedroom, small ass apartment in the hood somewhere in a lot of these places. I can only speak for my state, but there's jobs here, but we can't even get the minimum wage of $15 an hour. Y'all talk about sending billions and billions of dollars for forever war. The Ukraine gets billions and billions of dollars every 6 months. Now, God knows I support the Ukrainian people, but for fuck's sake, I mean, come on now, y'all, come on. Like, when are we gonna put America first? Americans first. These Democrats and Republicans are too busy infighting within themselves, but they form up like fucking Voltron when it comes domestic issues. Oh, we gonna fight foreign power issues. Oh well, shit, we got the money. Oh, we got the money. Yeah, the people said they don't have nothing to do with me, honey. When it pop up in the Middle East, the gas price is gonna go up to $5 a fucking gallon. Then you're gonna be sitting around going, why is there inflation? Just like when the Ukraine war popped off, people were like, who cares? And then inflation showed up. Oh my God, motherfucker, you do know we supporting the war. When you go to your grocery store and your motherfucking pasta and grain, anything made with a fucking grain, bread is like, $3-4. You do understand that has to do with the war that's happening in Ukraine and Russia. You do know that they provide grain and corn and shit to us. And people like, oh, it ain't got nothing to do with me. But then once the inflation starts, people motherfuckers start screaming and hollering and losing their damn mind. Why are the prices so high? Why are the prices so high? Because we funding the war. Part of the globe. We live in a global market, a global economy, dummy. Thank you, GSP. Tell them $7 a gallon here, girl. I don't want to live. When you in California, girl, gas here is $3.45, girl. It's cheaper in Texas because we have oil here. But yeah, but people are like complaining about this. I'm like, do you think if we go fund yet another war, what is that going to do to prices of goods? It's going to skyrocket because it's the economy. Like, people don't even understand how the economy even works. I just be tripping. I'll be like, y'all do know what happens globally affects our markets here. California is expensive in California. I would never live in California. It's too expensive. But yeah, like everything that happens around the world affects us either financially, economically, socially. People talking about if you want to go on a trip to another country. I remember when the Iraq war stopped off and people would go to other countries, like people would stop them and be like, we would spit on them and be like, you're Americans. And then, I will leave you guys with this. Besides my question about, do you think Native Americans are considered terrorists, considering all the things that they do, and why aren't they called terrorists or that they did terrorist acts against the settlers in history books? Besides that question, the other question I have to have is, considering the climate that we live here in America, like politically climate, with the United States going anyway, I had to get off my Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is empty, but considering all the pro-Palestine movements that are popping up all over in this country, but especially in France and Germany. In Germany, they have made it illegal for people to carry the Palestinian flag that is considered supporting terrorism. All right. In France, they have stopped pro-Palestine people from protesting, but they get out there anyway because France, if y'all don't know France is on and popping, y'all. France will set it off like Ray J up in here. They're still, so all these people in these different countries that are having these rallies, and some of them have clashed with the pro-Israel people. Do y'all think that This is going to influence governments to kind of stop talking reckless. Because I see the United States government is trying to like talk about humanitarian aid and things. Because people got to understand what happens over there. You have Jewish people here. You have Muslims here. You have Palestinians here in almost every country. So what is going to happen when these people finally get sick of what the government is doing and rise up? And you're coming up on an election year with Joe Biden. So how do y'all think that politics is going to influence what the United States does within the next coming weeks, months, or whatever in Israel? I have my own thoughts about that, but I just try to give y'all some things to think about. So that's y'all homework. Are the Native Americans, did they do terrorist acts? Why are they not called terrorists? Do you consider Native Americans when they was going over there killing the settlers? Do you consider them being terrorists? And if so, why? And if not, why? That's the biggest question. If not, why? Why aren't the Native Americans and what they did, killing the settlers and scalping them and kidnapping their children, when they were trying to get the settlers off their land? Why don't we consider Native Americans terrorists? They're not talked about as that way. They consider that they were fighting for their lands. People consider that as something that was just inevitable going to happen. So that parallels today. Who gets called a terrorist and who gets called a freedom fighter? Who gets called a terrorist and who gets called they're defending their lands? Who shapes that narrative and why? So that's my other question. Then second question is, considering everything that is going on in this country with protesting in other countries, you look it up worldwide, that there is a pro-Palestinian people who are supporting Palestine, Palestinians here in France, Germany, England, they're all over. Do you think that that will shape how the UN and how our government in the United States and how other governments deal with the situation from now on? Because France, in Germany, I'm telling you, they about to set it off. Like it's going to get to a point where pro-Palestinian protesters and the pro-Israel ones are going to end up clashing. They have a heavy police force, but these people are out here protesting every day. So do you think that will affect the way people are going to deal with things for the next couple of weeks, or maybe you think it's not going to affect anything, or maybe you think it's going to affect it maybe a little bit? Um, that's just something to ponder and think about because you know France is going to release their bed bug. Stop it. It's happening here in England. Yes, hippie wizard. It's happening. That's why I said in England. They are setting it off. They in London at a huge pro-Palestinian rally in London. And France and London particularly, um, Google Sheffield Town Hall Israeli flag. Yes, there are certain towns. I'm going to bring that up too. Hello, hippie wizard. Hello. I'm going to bring that up too. There are certain towns all over, even here in Texas, all over that are putting up Israeli flags, and people upset about it. People are mad about it. People, they're like their cities passing like resolutions saying that we support Israel. And people are upset about that. People are like, well, wait a minute, these people in the Gaza, they dying. Like, are you gonna support you? Who said that we? And then who are saying that we have to do this? Like, I don't know anybody. I mean, this is not something that like in our country. I know we're not. The government is not requiring cities to say that they support or pull up the Israeli flag. These governments and these cities are doing this thing on their own. So how is that going to affect the populace? And then the other question I have for you, which thank you, hippie wizard. What if your city put up a Palestinian flag? That's my other question for the people in the back. What if your mayor is Palestinian and he like, we're gonna put up a Palestinian flag? Would that mayor be wrong for wanting to put up a Palestinian flag and saying I support God? Because Hamas is not Palestine. Yeah, I believe that flags are divisive. I believe that all the way. I believe flags are symbolic and can be very divisive. You will never see me flying some American flag like, honey, I can't help where I'm born. I can't help that I was born and raised here. I'm born and raised in America. Family born and raised in America. We have no choice of where we were born. I am not nationalistic. I don't believe in nationalism like is a way to divide people and separate people and cause hatred. You want to put up a flag, you know, that's crazy. Yeah, and these cities are acting, and they're not asking the people what they want. They shouldn't we? Some of these cities is doing this, And they're not even asking the people on the city boards what they want to do. It's one or two people deciding they're going to put up an Israeli flag, or we going to put a flag up. Wait, like some of the people are like, hold up, I didn't agree to that. Some of the people sitting on city councils are like, nobody asked me, was this cool? Y'all just came, like a few of y'all just came together and decided to do it. So it is causing problems. And I tell people, life in war is not a football game. This is not the Packers versus the Cowboys. This is not what is it, Manchester United versus whatever, like they do soccer. This is not a soccer game. This is not a tennis match. These are people's lives. So when you decide to fly a flag over a city or a country that's supposed to be for all, you're naturally going to exclude some other people. If you as a government official, if you're going to fly a Palestinian flag above your city hall, or a Jewish flag or Israeli flag above your city hall, you have to understand what you're doing. Why would you do that when you have a city that's supposed to be for all people? When you're supposed to have freedom of speech in France, but they won't let you protest pro-Palestine. They won't let you have a flag. In Germany, I kind of understand, because Germany, that you can't have a Nazi flag. And Germany, I kind of get it, because they trying to nip it in the bud early. And that's how Germany, that's just how their laws are set up. They won't let you fly certain flags in Germany, period. But I kind of get it. But, thank God America hasn't done that. But the idea of France, you can't be in a we're going to arrest you because what? Because you disagree with certain things. Like, it's just the idea that this just reeks of fascism to me. Like, this is leaves a real nasty taste in my mouth. I'm just like, that's kind of distasteful. Like, why would you tell people that you can't protest? I mean, you're not out there waving a Hamas flag like, yay, terrorism. Like, no, you're supporting the Palestinian people, but can't you support both? I tell people, this is not a sporting game. I support Israel. I support Palestine. I support human beings not being killed because stupid fucking religion. Excuse my French. Stupid fucking religions. They're killing people. Yes, flags can be people burn the American flag because of the symbolic and the history behind it. So I tell people that they should not be out here on social media. Politicians should not be on social media talking reckless. They're animals. They're human monsters. Okay, so we saying the Palestinian people are animals, or we talking about Hamas? I need some clarification. People are not clarifying. People in power are saying reckless shit. How we got to genocide is people in power saying reckless shit. Where we're talking about Rwanda, we're talking about Armenia, we're talking about Germany. People have started, whole shit have been set off with the populace in these countries, not officials. Because governors and prime ministers and presidents, they can go hide in a bunker somewhere. They can go to another country. They can ship their kids off to a private school somewhere else. But the American people, the British people, the German people, the French people, the people that are in these westernized countries who live in these cities toe to toe with Palestinians. You may go to work with somebody Palestinian. You may go to work with somebody who is Jewish or Israeli. Motherfucking politicians on the internet, on Twitter or X or what you call it, talking reckless, just straight reckless. Don't you understand that this is not the 1920s and 30s when people had newspapers? Now you're dealing with social media. Even with the Iraq war, we didn't have social media. So this is a new avenue of warfare, a new thing for us. That people talking reckless and bumping their chest, and you have people reading this, and people are crazy anyway in all countries, in all society. People in the West Bank are now attacking Palestinians and running them out of their home because Netanyahu said they animals. He said they monsters. They are animals. So we got to get these people out of our neighborhood. How long before that's going to spread to westernized countries? Should people be arming themselves in westernized countries? There's a lady that got stabbed in France. An Israeli lady got stabbed in France. The other day? Do y'all know about that? So how long before it pop off here? It's always the normal people that suffer. The elites, they can take off and go wherever the hell they want to go. Even when they talk about the PLO, the Palestinian government, I'm like, what? They got payments from Israel, and then They have their manicured lawn and their gated communities in the West Bank, and they sent their kids off to England and to America to study government because that's what they did. They the PLO. That's why the people are not were so mad at the PLO that they have no authority because they basically live separate from the people. Like y'all guys will be all over there. We'll be over here in our nice little gated manicured lawn in our little compounds in the West Bank. While we sending our kids abroad to get educated. The elites always prosper in war. They make money off of war. Stocks go up. You see the stocks shot up. Anytime there's a war, stocks shoot up. The elites always prosper. And the little people suffer. Always suffer. Thank you, hippie wizard. Yes. And it's just sad because people don't understand that the things that, and politicians get to stand up before Congress and talk about, we're going to kill them all and we're going to drive them and we're going to exterminate them like vermin. Huh? While the people who are sitting there watching this going, okay, we're vermin now? Like, oh my God, you looking at your neighbor like, shit, my neighbor watching this. He may think I'm vermin. Like, I just want to live in peace. I just want to go to work. I didn't know I was gonna wake up today and these people gonna shoot some bombs and kidnap some people. I just want to live my life in peace, and then here they come trying to run you off your because Bibi Netanyahu said y'all vermin, y'all animals. That's what they saying. That y'all all want to kill us. Wait a minute, what? What? That's not me though. That's not me though. I know you. I go to kids with your. I live next door to you for. Wait. What are you doing? Get out of here. What? This is how genocide starts because politicians be talking reckless. And like I said, with social media and the way things are now, I just be like, I'm sitting there reading this going, okay, people are going to read this and just start killing Palestinians. Like they're going to read this and be like, whoa, well, they said it. And like I said, I'm not blaming the average everyday people. I'm blaming the politicians. And people come here in this America and then our westernized media, like I said, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, trash. I don't need narratives. I need truth. I need to know what's happening on both sides. I want to know what's happening in Israel. I want to know what's happening in Gaza. And I'm just like, okay, this is happening in Israel. Okay, great. Okay, yeah, great. So what's happening with the Palestinian people? What's going on? What do they feel? How do they feel? Oh, we ain't worried about that. Don't think about that. We don't care about what the fuck they feel. I said, Lord have mercy, the Gulf War all over again. Talking about all Iraq. Here's Saddam Hussein. Here's his sons. Hussein, Kudu, and Hussein. His sons, they kidnapping women and then they cut people's arms off and they had this opulent palace. Okay, but what about the regular people in Iraq? Right? What about the people who are poor? What about the Kurds? What about the Christian people that live there? Because again, I tell people there are Christian people in Israel. Christians, not all of them. Well, these nationals in America got kidnapped. They kidnap all these nationals. Yeah, there's nationals kidnapped from different countries. But then there's also people do y'all understand there's people in Gaza who have dual citizenship with America that can't get out? They're trying to get out through Egypt. There are UN workers from the UK, Germany, France, America, who work at these Anwar schools that provide education, that provide aid from the United Nations that are stuck there, that are pretty much saying their goodbyes to people because they feel like they're going to have bombs dropped on them and they're going to die there. A lot of people watch their news, just American news. I don't. I watch Sky News. I love Sky News. Shout out to Sky News. At least Sky News is starting to be like, they trying to get some backbone. They like, they starting to ask people questions. They're starting to actually show things. So at least I watch Sky News. I watch WION. I watch Al Jazeera because I want to know I even watch Al Jazeera in Arabic because I'm trying to brush up on my Arabic because I know a little teeny smidgen of Arabic. So, but yeah, I try to watch to get a more well-rounded because I want to know what's happening. Like I don't, Sky News, yeah, Sky News is great. That the BBC News I can't. I had to turn off. Sky News is good, real good. I had to turn off the BBC. Like Sky News probably like, wait a minute, what's happening? Hello, Galen Wilkerson. You don't trust Sky Hippie Wizard? You would know better than I would. I'm not But I do subscribe to them all. But I don't know which ones. I just watch and I'm like waiting for them to say something relevant instead of it's almost I had to say it like propaganda. Like I'm like this is the war machine propaganda. This is the same. This is 10 times worse than the Iraq War. 10 times worse. When they tried to equate 9/11 with the Iraq War, I mean, a lot of us were going, that's not how, that's not what does that have to do with wasn't it the Saudis? Wasn't it Al Qaeda? Al Qaeda's not even in Iraq. What the heck? Everybody went lockstep with George W. Bush and they boomed the utter complete crap. And the American people are like, oh yeah. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there going, what the fuck is wrong with y'all? Like, I'm like, but and then, like I said, to watch a documentary 20 years later, I was ready to throw my popcorn. I had to turn the documentary because it made me so mad. They have Tony Blair and George W. Bush in this documentary. I forgot the name of it, but it came out like a year ago where they talked about the Afghan war and the Iraq war, and then people just kind of, and then Republicans saying, well, it was bullshit. Wait, what? So now y'all don't agree with George W. Bush? I lost my shit. After all my times of protesting in the street as a 20-year-old, about all the fights that I've had with Republicans about George W. Bush, now, over 20 years later, these fools are like, yeah, we shouldn't have went to Iraq. I said, after being called a terrorist lover, now you guys are like, yeah, we shouldn't have went to Iraq. I cried. Like I literally lost my mind. I literally lost my mind. I'm just like, now it's an issue. Now it's a problem. I'm just like, all I could do is shake my head watching. I couldn't even finish the documentary. I was so mad because it still reverberates and hurts me to today that like, okay, we were right all those years. That history made us right. The Iraq War was bullshit. Like it did nothing but destabilize the Middle East and call the Arab Spring. That's all it did. It facilitated. It further destabilized the Middle East. And the same thing we have said before. We're like, this is just gonna make things worse, and nobody believes it. So anyway, I've been on here way too long, y'all. But I just like to say that I believe that the Israeli and Palestine people have to give things up in order to come together. There's going to have to be some sort of um, compromise, and that their best way to go is the way that South Africa has gone, and it's not perfect, and everybody's not going to get everything they want, and some people are going to lose their land and lose their houses and lose their shit, and some people are going to have to be paid reparations to get the Palestinian people, but they deserve to have their own nation and their own country and be able to work and breathe and live in a great nation. Um, GSP looking. I don't know who Andy Basil is or whatever the hell. Get out the hell out of here. But thanks for running up my numbers. I appreciate it. But I believe that either, I don't know if a two-state solution is going to work. I don't have optimism and faith in humanity that it will work. Hopefully it works. But this should have been worked on decades ago. This should have been worked on the 60s and the 70s and 80s. And all these rulers and presidents and prime ministers from England, United States, Germany, Israel, Palestine, all these people have failed. These people, all these people in Israel, I don't blame y'all mad at y'all government. Y'all should be asking y'all government questions. How did this happen? How did the security was so failed? Hamas is literally on the internet with videos doing ride-alongs. They was Facebooking live what they're doing, and nobody saw it. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, y'all, it was security failure that they finally admitted, like, yeah, it's security failure. And then the Israel, like I said, the reason people don't want to go to war. And then the Palestinians, Hamas, they need to get rid of them. But how can you get rid of them when they're actually in there with the people? When they're not a military group? Palestine does not have a military. They have a militant group, but they're not a military. Palestine don't really have a real government. Like they don't really have like I think some people think that Palestine is their own country. They're not. They just shuttered in ghettos somewhere. Nobody wants to be shuttered in a ghetto. They're gonna come out fighting. Like you will never have peace in that region until there's two equal societies with two equal countries, and that money has to be flowing. I'm gonna say it before, and I'm gonna say it again. I'm gonna say it for the people in the back. You are never going to reconcile anything without money, whether you mean black liberation here in this country, whether you mean reparations for us black Americans, that we for surely do need reparations here. But for any country, no matter how it was formed, Israel didn't pop up overnight with poor people. They had the backing and the money of the British and other countries. You need the backing and the money. Instead of sending aid to Palestine, all that money should have been pumped. What the EU do, they send billions of dollars every year to send aid. Instead of sending aid, why don't y'all use that money to set up a government in their society? But y'all want to pump aid without having to really deal with the problem. So instead of sending aid, you should be trying to send money to build infrastructure and build jobs and get things going, not aid for food, water, and shelter. Yeah, that's nice, but you're not doing anything to make these people self-sufficient and have their own autonomy and their own dignity about them. Because again, what we don't really understand in this country is the fact that the Arabs and the Muslims having dignity and autonomy for yourself is a huge thing in their culture. Like the idea that you are on the teat of the United Nations, that somebody's giving you water, giving you food. I don't know many Arabs that to them culturally and as a patriarchal society that I don't fuck with agree with, it's dehumanizing for them. It's de emasculating for them to have their people not working because they've always worked. To have their people like where they have to get their food and water and shelter from somebody else. That is dehumanizing to them. That breaks your spirit as a human being, as an adult, as a parent, as a man, as a woman, for you to be relying upon foreign aid from other countries and you're not being able to be self-sufficient on your own. To take these dignity away from these people and how it's been done for years, that is another component that people are not understanding. So I said give the people the ability to rebuild their society and fund it with lots of money, because you can't fund it with ideals and declarations by the UN and commissions. It it's not going to do much of anything. You got to put your money where your policy is at. High. And if you don't put your money where the policy is at, it's going to fail. Because there's been a lot of UN resolutions and commissions and policies and thoughts and meetings and diplomacy. That's great. Cut the crap, figure it out, put it on paper, and then actions have to be made. There are, like I said, there's treaties and things already on the books with the UN about how the Palestinians are supposed to have their own homeland, but nobody can enforce it. Like I said before, the law is what they say it is. And if nobody's there to enforce it, nobody's there is exacted, then it's a failed law. It's a failed law. And so, if it's a failed law, it's meaningless. It's just a piece of paper. So at this point, to me, with the EU and the United Nations, they look very neutered. They look very, very neutered. Thank you, GSP. I don't know who these weirdos come, but they can come. Hey, come on, weirdos. I just see that the UN and the EU are neutered. Like they really have no power that the United States ain't giving them. And I knew that, but people don't realize that the EU and the European Union, the EU, is whatever Great Britain say they do. And the United Nations, which I hate to agree with the Russians, God knows, because I don't like the Russians. I don't like the Russian government. Like I said, I have no problem with the Russian people. They fought the good fight. My brothers and sisters out there in the streets protesting against Ukraine. Um, I just, to me, the United Nations is run by the United States of America. Like it's just a shill for the United States in Germany and France and their interests. Probably, allegedly, no, that is not my ex. That is definitely not my ex. Are we talking? We said okay. Hold on, y'all. You're talking about probably allegedly. Y'all talking about my ex? I talked to my ex last night. Anyway, we will get that's another video for another time. I'm gonna do a dating video. Like I'm gonna give y'all an update about my dating life. Like y'all care, but some of y'all do care. Some of y'all just want to be messy. But I want to be messy, and I want a video that's more enlightening and more upbeat than this one. But I appreciate everybody being here. Like I said, I'm going off onto a tangent. I thought the video was only be 30 minutes, but y'all get me here and get to talking. But those are my thoughts, and that's my story about how I was on the no-fly list and how it's just a weirdo, I guess. Yeah, that's be a weirdo. Because I think my ex would say something. He would text message me or something, and I don't think he's probably even up right now. He's probably so asleep. But anyway, I just had to throw my thoughts because I've been holding it in for a while, about my thoughts, and I was like, should I tell people that I have more experience than the average person because I've worked with these groups, and like I said, I've worked with Jewish groups. I worked with the Anti Defamation League. I've worked with them a long time in my 20s. And then I worked for this other group that was about um, helping Muslim people that I won't say their name. But so I've been on both sides of the spectrum. And like I said, I have nothing but love for the Jewish people who have fought 10 toes down with black people in the civil rights movement. That the places used to be like no blacks, no Jews, no Irish, no Italians. Like the Jews was catching it here in America too. Even after World War II, when they came here, they were catching hell because again, there's anti-Semitism and fascism every fucking where. And we will fight it 10 toes down on air. I will fight against fascism, revisionism, Zionism, Christian fascism, 10 toes down, no matter where I'm at. People have a right to live. People have a right to live wherever the hell they want to live and do whatever the hell they want to do. And I will fight any kind of anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim, Islamophobia, homophobia, racism, sexism, all of it. I've spent my 20s sitting in Wall Street, corporate greed, corporate takeover, corporate fascism, whatever it may be. I believe in freedom. I believe in humanity. I believe that people have a right to be human, no matter what sexual gender or whatever skin color you have. Even I don't agree with religion. I believe that people have a right to believe whatever the hell they want to believe. Even though I'm an atheist, I disagree with it, but people have that right, and I will fight for people to have their right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to live in peace, freedom to live in harmony, and whether that means with other people or separate, I believe you have that freedom as well. Um, but in a peaceful manner where you're not exploiting, hurting, settling, colonizing other people. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that, and I think that greed and religion has taken over our world since the dawn of time. And I think that human beings sometimes just want to be human beings, and we're not the best people. We are not the best creatures on the planet. We are not nice. We are not kind. There are people who believe that people are innately kind. I don't believe that. I've seen enough from enough people. I've read enough history to understand that human beings can be brutal and evil. Like we have an evilness in all of us, pushed to the brink. For me to sit here, like I said, I'm gonna end this with my American privilege and be like, peace is we're just gonna have peace and it's possible and da 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 da. That's me sitting in my American privilege while I'm sitting here in a nice, rich neighborhood, living my best life. I'm not gonna judge anybody as to what they do and how they deal with their problems. It's hard for me to judge that. It's hard for me on both sides of this Israel-Hamas thing. It's hard for me to sit here and be like, well, that's a little bit too far, or well, they really shouldn't have done that. I mean, I may have that opinion, but at the end of the day, I don't live in a war zone. So I don't live in a war zone fighting the enemy for 3,000 years. If I live in a war zone fighting the enemy for 3,000 years, I don't know how I would feel about certain issues. I don't know how violent I would be. I can say I know myself, I would be pretty violent because when it comes to my family, like I said, in my family and who I am and my babies, if you kill my babies, you're gonna have a vendetta. We gonna have problems because I'm gonna create some more babies, and I'm gonna tell these babies, look, this is what happened to me, and this is what we should do. And it just violence begets violence begets violence begets it continues. The only way to stop the next generation of Hamas, the next generation of colonizers, is to stop colonizing and stop terrorizing. That and it has to stop now. You may stop it temporarily, but in a couple of years it's gonna flare up again. It's just gonna keep going until something is gonna have to happen where both sides are gonna have to compromise and deal with it. So that's all for today. My next video, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna talk about online dating, my experiences. Um, I know y'all want to know the tea. I'm kind of dating someone, y'all. That's all I gotta say. Until next time. Da da da. Your girl's Kiki is kind of not. I'm single. I'm single-ish. GSP is always a pleasure. Everybody else, look. Everybody else that came, the hippie wizard. Everybody else that came. Yes, what? Yeah, yes, girl. I am kind of dating somebody. I kind of found somebody, y'all. I'm not trying to get too excited. I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it on the cliffhanger. Cause y'all know I had a boyfriend for 5 years. I'm gonna reflect and really tell y'all what went on in my relationship. Y'all would be shocked. The level of the things that happened in my relationship. Not nothing too tragic, but you would be shocked at things that I let this person get away with. And I'm just gonna tell y'all just talk with y'all like I'm talking with y'all now, like we having a conversation. I love to come here and conversate with y'all. I miss that. And then I'm gonna talk about my mother and the grief and how that all ties into my relationship. And y'all, I had a 5-year relationship. My relationship ended. I'm on 3 different dating apps. Three, y'all. Yes, 3 different dating apps. And I'm gonna tell y'all my experiences and what's happening. So something a little bit more lighthearted, and it's more Kiki and Kalkon about. And then, like I said, I did go on a date with somebody, and we talking. So I'm just gonna leave it at that. Anyway, y'all. And until next time, people, I will be back with my next video. I won't stay away for very long. I'm gonna come on. I'm gonna get my thoughts together about that, and I'm gonna come and do the video probably tomorrow, maybe tomorrow or Tuesday. I'll see what time that I have to sit here and talk about. I need some time in the evening to get it. I need to sit in my house and really sit and talk to y'all about. Get the camera out and really talk to y'all about what's going on, because it's quite a lot. That video maybe a little bit shorter, but it'll probably be about at least get a 45-minute hour chat. But anyway, peace and blessings to everybody out there. Yes, GSD. I thank y'all for being here. And y'all subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed. Like I said, I've been doing my K-pop tour and doing lifestyle kind of things, just trying to rest my mind. But I think I'm getting to a space mentally where I can come back and actually do videos on a consistent basis. Because like I said, I lost my mother in April and it has been very hard. I can only imagine what my mom would think was going on. And my mom would weep for all people involved. She would just be livid. She would, because we went through the Iraq war. She would, I don't know what my mom rolling in her grave right now thinking about what's going on. She would see everything in the news and just be disgusted. But anyway, I gotta go. I had errands I had to do, but I'll talk about this later. I'll see y'all on Monday or Tuesday. Y'all wait for my live. It's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be in the evening after work, and I'll spill the tea about who I'm doing or who I'm not doing. Anyway, bye y'all.